Hello, my name is Leslie, and I am the host of the Why Not Today podcast. This is a podcast to celebrate people who have been courageous and said, Why not today? I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often said, Why not today? I'm based in Reston, Virginia, a planned community right outside of Washington, D.C. And thanks for joining us today. So I'm excited. We are officially this week starting instead of twice a month, we're going to every week podcast, which is kind of fun and exciting. Except for saying that, I think we're skipping next week. That's okay. Starting in January, officially. um, so my guest today is somebody I've known for several years, Liz Kamp, and she has a spin studio here where I live, but I found something new about her the other day. And so she's here to share about her courageous moments with her studio, but also we're going to talk about the one word and intentions as we start the new year. So I always talk about how we met, where we connected. So Liz lives in Reston, but I didn't meet you until you opened the spin studio at Lake Ann.
Yeah.
And met you through that when you just probably met you before you opened, and then went to a couple sessions, but then really got to know you better, or you got to know me better, because I put out on social media one day that I was looking for somebody to help work with my younger sister as Down syndrome with some exercise, and you reached out. You have a nephew that's Down syndrome, and
Yep.
so Liz works with Amanda every week and walks around the lake and does exercises. So, and I'm
Yeah.
sure tells you everything I don't want you, not that it's anything behind, but you know everything about our family hanging out with Amanda. So I love that connection, and that we become like family through connections of business. So, and I
Yeah.
had no idea you did the My Intention thing training. So it's funny, things about people, but you don't know everything about them. So
That's
why
right.
don't you introduce yourself, Liz? Just a quick bio with a fun fact, and then we'll talk
Okay.
about courage and your courage stories.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm Liz Kamp, and I'm the founder of New Trail, as Leslie mentioned. And yeah, I feel like we've known each other forever, even though we haven't.
Right.
But yeah, the studio has now been open for about 5 years, and I have lived in Reston for about 15 years, almost
Wow.
15 years now. And we love living here. And we have 3 kids and a dog, and just thoroughly enjoy, the rest in life. And being not far from Lake Ann, that was a priority for us when we bought our house. So yeah, we love this area. And I'm originally from upstate New York. And I like to say that I went to college in Baltimore. And when I realized that the sun could shine and there could be snow on the ground at the same time, then I realized I wouldn't be going north, farther north than the Mid-Atlantic again. And so I'm definitely one of those people who's hoping for snow, though, this winter. I do
Yes,
love the snow. Can't beat it.
snow is fun, but we don't want to
Yeah.
like you put it up there.
Yeah. True. True.
So yeah, well, I'm excited. I didn't know you'd lived in Reston that long, but
Yeah. Yeah. We're coming up on 15 years.
crazy. Well, I've
Been a
lived
while.
15 more, but I don't tell
Yeah.
them because that
just
shows
a
my age.
few.
I've lived in Reston since I was 2, so
Yeah, well,
few
a little
years.
different there. Yeah.
Yes. So Liz, what does courage mean to you? Start there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it just means acting when you don't know what the outcome is going to be. I think um I am very much type A. A lot of people would say I'm very type A, and I like to know what's coming, and I like to see what's coming down the path. And so for me personally, courage is definitely acting on the unknown. And yeah.
Love that. So you opened New Trail 5 years ago. So let's talk
Mhm.
about that courageous move and starting that. And what motivated you, and was it scary
Yeah,
knowing?
for
And then you were
sure.
only open. Were you open a year and then COVID?
Just, yeah, a year and a couple of months before
Okay.
COVID started.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was, in a lot of ways, it was a really long road to open New Trail because I worked in the fitness industry. I started in college teaching classes, and had worked in the industry, had worked for the town of Herndon, running their fitness programming. So, that experience between the town of Herndon, working for a YWCA, a couple other fitness facilities, realized that I really wanted to do it my own way. And I couldn't really do that unless I really branched out on my own. So I knew that I wanted to stay home, be a stay-at-home mom with our kids when they were little. So it kind of was put on the back burner intentionally, just sort of like, gotta wait until the time is right. And so during that time, we had our 3 babies, and I taught some classes with my mom's group and still sort of kept my foot in the door fitness wise.
Were you working another job, or you just, not just, but were you home with the kids?
Just home with the kids. Yep.
Just
home with the kids.
Not a good word.
Yeah, just is not a good word for that. That is very true. But still kind of continued my fitness journey in terms of teaching classes to my mom's group and being involved in running and walking groups and things like that. But really, New Trail in the iteration of Lake Ann, once the pharmacy closed at Lake Ann. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Lake Ann Plaza in Reston, we have a beautiful lakefront mixed use area. And there was an original pharmacy that was also a little cafe and a post office all wrapped into one. And when that
a candy store with
yes.
the meat lady when we were kids.
Can't forget the candy store. So when that closed down, let's see, I was not even pregnant with my youngest. I think that timing is about right. And I remember saying to my husband, like, that's the spot. I'm not ready to do it right now, but oh my gosh, that's my space. Like, that is where I need to do this.
I did not know that.
Yes. And then, but I knew truly that I couldn't take it on in that moment. So I just kind of waited, and the space stayed vacant and stayed vacant. And I kept watching it and kept saying, I'm going to be so upset if somebody else goes in there. And I still can vividly remember the day sitting with my 2 sister-in-laws at Calypso's, a restaurant across the way, and saying, I think I just need to do it. Like, it feels like that's my space. I think I just need to do it. And
why not today?
Why not today?
Why not today moment?
Yeah. And it just kind of felt like this overwhelming sense of like, yeah, I have to do it. And if I don't act, I'm going to regret it. And I don't want to regret not just trying. Right. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. I reached out to the landlord, got in touch with the broker, and started the very long process of negotiating, and was able to secure the space. So my daughter, our youngest, was a year and a couple months when no, more than that, maybe two and a couple months when we first started really the process. So yeah, it was one of those, I don't want to look back and regret it.
Yeah.
So,
which is what courage is, just doing the things. And it wasn't perfect. And you had to figure out a lot of stuff in between.
Yeah,
including
sure did.
The things on the wall, right?
Yeah, all of it. Lots of learning curve there. But I think too, when you believe in what you're doing, it's easier to be courageous. And I feel like I just so deeply believed that the service I wanted to provide people was worth pursuing. That also is what really pushed me to do it.
And when we were talking the other day, like, you're a spin studio, but you do other things and other exercise. And when you worked with me as a personal trainer, but what you said, I loved, and it so aligns with the Why Not Today message and what I'm trying to do with this podcast is, why do women come to New Trail?
Right. Yeah, I think that, to me, it's always been deeper than just a workout. My degree is in psychology, and for me in high school, fitness became an outlet. It became a way to improve my mental health. It was a way for me to connect with other people. And so New Trail, to me, I named New Trail because it's a new trail in Reston. It's a new way, again, for the listeners who aren't here in town. New Trail was founded by Bob Simon, and the community is connected by trails. There are 55 miles of trails. And Bob said his vision was for people to meet on the trails and
Right.
connect on the trails. And so when I was trying to figure out what to call the studio, New Trail is what came out, because I thought, well, my whole goal is for people to connect, people to
Love that.
feel seen, people to, be there to work out for more than just burning calories. It's about feeling good, making connections, being a human. Having that human connection is just so big. And so for me, yeah, I think all women in particular just want to feel seen, and they want that human connection. And so we try to provide that.
That's awesome. And, I never heard that side of it, and it makes so much sense. And I taught water aerobics for 13 years, and the same thing. People came for the community and the connection. And it goes back to Lake Ann too, that Lake Ann was designed, and all the original shopping centers and restaurants, you had to get out of your car and walk and build that community. And I live right here, right? Probably if I had a really good arm, throw a rock at the studio. But it is connection, and I can't walk out of my door and walk to New Trail without probably running to 3 or 10 people that I know. And that's what I love about this community. So it's not just about working out. It's so much more. So really, we're here to talk about one word, which you'd never heard of, but you teach classes on something else. Is it my intent?
Yeah, my intent
so let's talk about that and what that is, how people come about doing it.
Yeah, so my intent, gosh, I should, I was going to say, how did I first stumble upon my intent? I think actually it was at a fitness conference. And they were just starting out. And my intent, if you're not familiar, it's a company that does, they do workshops, but it's all about finding your word, your inspiration for the year or this particular time in your life. And then you hand stamp it into a bracelet or a necklace.
Which is funny. And I don't have it on today, but I do have a My Intent bracelet that I had made.
Okay.
It says, "Why not today?"
There you go. Yep. So that's kind of how I got introduced to it at a conference. And I just thought, wow, I love the idea of living with intention. I mean, that's the whole point of it, is we are all rushing through life. And so how can we be intentional with the choices that we're making day to day, with our goal for any particular time or year in life? And for me, it really fits in line with the goal for the studio, which is to go deeper, right? So again, it's not just the workout, it's the how do you feel and your overall well-being. And so my intent to me is along those same lines. How do we live with intention? And so I also love using it at the studio, because I do think people, particularly around this time of year when we're looking at New Year's resolutions, and we think, okay, yes, here's my goal for next year. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And it's really hard to just say, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and have that motivate you all year long. And so to me, I really like flipping it for people and saying, okay, so I understand that's your goal, but why is it your goal? So is it that you want to lose 20 pounds because you want to be healthier so that you can run around with your kids or grandkids, or you want to be able to travel next year and you know that it will be easier for you to travel health-wise if you're in better condition? So then you kind of go deeper from there, right? So is it the time? Is it how you feel? What is that then going to allow you to do? So I think I really enjoy the layers, peeling back the layers, right? To see what truly is motivating someone to either add to their life or also potentially remove things from their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in your workshops, I love the digging deeper with the why, and totally relate. A friend of mine the other day texted me. She goes, "I think my word's going to be health," which can encompass the lose whatever, how much weight, or, and
Yeah.
talking about the grandparents or want to play with your kids. My niece just had a baby, and my brother-in-law is lifting weights and wants to get healthier so he can throw the baby up in the air.
There you go.
You know, what a visual. So how do
Yeah.
you help people peel back the why? What do you do in the workshop for
Yeah.
help? So if people, we're doing a one-word painting event January 4th, and I know your workshop's at the end of January. So if you give me some tips and ideas of how do you figure out that word?
Yeah. So usually our workshops start with a little bit of meditation to just kind of open people up to allowing words to come to them. I think you and I were chatting about our own words and saying things like, oh yeah, and then this one word just kind of kept coming to me. And I think once you get used to doing this process, that does start to happen, right? You just start feeling like one's tapping you on the shoulder over and over again. And so for us, I think in the workshop setting where you're limited on time, I think it's helpful to start with a little meditation and just breathing and open up some ideas of questions, right? Asking questions to start letting people think about, what do I want more of in my life? What do I want less of in my life? What do I want to feel like next year? What change do I want to see? And then from there, I kind of let everyone come up with what they think their word is. And then we talk a little bit deeper, and I tend to share stories of sort of past words of mine and how I reached them. And then we kind of brainstorm a little bit in the group setting for people if they want to share and talk about what their words are. And they might come up with something, and I might then respond with a question, asking them again, just sort of that searching question to get a little deeper to what they're looking for.
And how long are your workshops to determine your why?
It's about, depends on the number of people, but usually about 60 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too long.
Love that. So do you have a word that you've had in the past? I don't know how many years you've been doing this, but do you have a word that was just super memorable? I mean, probably my most memorable is last year's, or 2020 had a lot of, and it's interesting how it kind of twists. I probably shared this on the last podcast, but 2020, my word was connect, and my friend was gather, and we kind of laughed about it in March, but we're like, all right, it's an invitation to figure out how to connect and gather in different ways.
Yeah.
So it totally can unfold in totally different ways. So do you have a story of a word or intention?
Last year mine was feel. But the year before that, mine was here, HERE. And what I found helpful about that one was wearing it on my bracelet on my wrist, because my goal for that year, my intention was to be more present. And so to me, that meant here, wherever that wrist is with that bracelet, just be here, be present. I think as a mom, the balance between work and kids, I mean, balance again, I don't think it really exists, but try in the world of constant cell phone and constant connection, right? When I'm here in this moment, I want my attention to be here. And so to me that year in particular, it was so helpful to have it on my wrist, because I literally would start to multitask, see my wrist reach for something and go, nope, just stop, just be here. You can get to that in a minute. So it was helpful in a different way that year, I think, being such an actual physical reminder that I would see on my wrist, where last year I actually didn't wear my bracelet as much as I normally did, because I think I had really just encompassed it so much that I didn't need to see the reminder to focus on it. So yeah, you need different things in different years.
My bracelet says why not today, but I think I'm going to need to get my word to remind me, because I put it around my house. I paint it with our one word event. It's there, but then it's, and I actually have my graphic person a lot of times use a fun graphic and give me a graphic and I print it just on a photo paper and put it around the house so it's there. But I think the wrist thing, because mine this year was space, and a lot of it was being present in my space with who I was.
Okay. Yeah.
But we forget, and we
Yeah.
start multitasking, as you said, or
Right.
doing the other things. So
Yeah. And I've had people take, so you put your word into it's a metal ring. And it's already on a bracelet, but I know a lot of people who cut them off the bracelet, put it on a necklace, which I
that's
think is
good.
a nice way to do it. And I may do that this year. I like the idea of, as you're sitting and thinking or working, you might pick up the necklace and just sort of fold it in your fingertips and remind yourself of the word, feel the word with your hands because it is stamped in there. So there are lots of different ways of doing it that I think.
Yeah. Well, and I wear a lot of times a starfish necklace, and we'll
Oh, yeah.
touch it and talk about it because of the story of the starfish. Do you know the story of the starfish?
I don't know. Don't know that I
So
do.
this guy was walking down the beach and picking up starfish and throwing them in the ocean. And somebody walked up, an older man walked, he's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm saving the starfish." He's like, "How could you possibly save the starfish? There's thousands on this beach." And he picked one up and threw it in the ocean. He goes, "I saved that one." And so I really try to live by that motto. Like, you don't know what one person's life you're going to influence, or how
Yeah.
one person can make a difference in your life, or just pouring into one person. Like, you just
Right.
never know who needs you that
Yeah.
moment.
Oh,
And
I
that
love that.
kind of ties into being present with
Right.
people. But yeah, the necklace thing, I often wear it and I touch it and feel it and talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of like that idea of the maybe making a necklace
Yeah.
out of the word.
Yeah. Well, you can come to the studio and do it.
I
End of
might have
January.
to. And
Yeah.
I do, I found somebody else that does stickers. She does
Oh, nice.
handwriting, and I found her a
Okay.
couple of years ago. I was just scrolling on social media, mindlessly, not being present, probably.
Yeah.
And she had this thing for like $5. You could get your word on the sticker. And so I did it. And I happened to be out of town and had it sent to where I was. Well, completely forgot about it. And my friend sent it to me, and I'm like, "What is this?" And she does an amazing job with her packaging and marketing with the word and all kinds of a fun envelope. And
Oh,
it's a
nice.
fun experience just to get your word, which is now on my laptop all the time. But
Yeah,
yeah,
which
reminder.
that reminds me of another thing that you could do. And I did this one year with goals, and I gave it to someone to mail to me like a few months
Mhm.
later. So that, and you could do that with your word too, of
That's a good
like
idea.
have someone mail it to you. And it was such a sort of aha reminder moment of like, okay, you said this was going to be your goal for the year. Are you really doing it?
Yeah.
Let's check in. I think sometimes
Which,
those check-ins are
yeah,
really
because I
helpful.
talked to a friend of mine about her word for this year, and she's like, "I don't remember what my word is last year." I'm
Yeah,
like, and so I literally we do the painting, and I leave the painting in my bathroom. So I see it every morning when I'm
every
getting ready.
day.
So it reminds me of
Yeah, I like that.
yeah. So any other tips or ideas on helping people come up with their intention word?
I think if you have the time to let yourself sit with it a little bit, I think that is always good. And maybe that just means, spending an extra couple of minutes being open to it morphing into something different.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think just being open to suggestions that your brain and body will will give you. I know it
Yeah.
sounds
I
sort of
mean,
woo
I've
woo,
got
but it's
two I'm toying between. I'm just kind of
yeah,
looking and watching. And last year I knew what my word was going to be. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. It was like,
yeah,
oh, that's not it. This is it.
yeah.
So, all right.
Um,
But we're going to talk about how to encourage people. Before we do that, we
yeah.
started on the podcast having sponsorships. So, New Trail
Oh
Cycle
yeah.
Strength is our sponsor for this podcast this week. It says it's located in Lake Ann Plaza in Reston, Virginia, and they offer group indoor cycling, strength, and yoga classes, as well as personal training. New Trail's mission is to make fitness accessible for everybody through their challenging yet achievable workouts where all levels are welcome. And she has a special for anybody who listens to Why Not Today. You can get a free class by just going to, and we'll put this in the show notes too, www.newtrailcycling.com/free class. So a good way to end your year, start your year right. And we can also share about your intention workshop. And for those of you listening, and if you're local and want to join us, we are doing the Wine Women in One Word painting on January 4th at Pinot's Palette in Herndon. And it's another way to have your word present for you. So I always ask my guests, how would you encourage somebody else to be courageous?
I just think it's always so much better to look back with no regrets. I so rarely regret the things that I try. So if you're on the fence about something, I do think it's not wise to go into things blindly, right? So look in all directions, but trust yourself. I think deep down, we all kind of know the right path. And so, yeah, no one wants regrets. So it's worth taking the leap.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. There's something I've been toying with, trying to make a decision on, and it has to do with the word be seen. And after you said that the other day and it keeps popping up, I'm like, I just need to do it because it just doesn't come off. I just can't stop thinking about it. And I often share in this podcast and talk about Daniel Pink. Do you know who that is?
No.
He's an author who actually lives in Northern Virginia, but he wrote a book about regrets. I don't remember exactly the title, but one of the things he said is we rarely regret the things we didn't do, or that we do. We rarely regret the things that we do. So let's just do those things. And that's really the Why Not Today message, the little things, and some days it's getting out of bed or going for the walk or, starting businesses or just sitting at a restaurant, looking at a space going, I know in my gut, that's mine, and going.
Right.
Aren't you glad you did?
Yes. And timing is never right.
No.
I just think there's no such thing. I don't really know anyone who said, oh yeah, things just perfectly lined up and slowed down and life was so easy, so I decided that was the perfect time. No, that doesn't happen. We are in a fast-paced life, and us living in Northern Virginia, it's a fast-paced area. And so if you keep thinking to yourself, I might regret not doing this, then there's your answer.
Yeah, you just have to take that step and do it without a doubt.
There are always lessons in things that don't work out, right?
Yes, absolutely. But you still have the lessons, and you're further ahead because of that.
Right.
So, well, I always try to connect back to my dad, and people always say, "Well, I never met your dad." Which, did you ever meet my dad? Probably not.
No.
Okay. Never saw him floating around Reston. Everybody once I explain him, they're like, "Oh, I know who that is." But so a couple things. One, I didn't know you worked with the town of Herndon. I don't know if you knew this, but my dad worked for the town of Herndon.
I did know that.
Planning it years and years and years ago. He was a city planner, and he actually did the redevelopment of Rochester. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I don't think I did know that one.
Yep, he did that. I was born in Buffalo, but he worked all over the country. So I was actually born in New York too.
Wow,
and his first office was at Lake Ann. His office was at the townhouses, where the coffee shop is. He was all the way at the end.
Amazing.
Yeah, so lots of
those little connections. I know, and it feels like I should have met him at some point. Just feeling like I know your mom so well now, and your sister. So,
well, it's funny as I said, when I meet people and they're like, "Oh, I know who your dad is," or I actually had a new customer come in here that I knew through the chamber, and she came into my house and I had a picture of my dad there. She's like, "How do you know Pat Kane?" And then she thought about, "Oh, wait a minute, I never thought about that."
That's hysterical.
Yes. So,
well, Amanda and I often go and walk down to the bench that has his name on it. Yes.
We need to get that redone because you can't really read it anymore.
It needs to be polished up a little bit.
Yes, exactly. So, well, this was a pleasure, and I'm so excited that we connected and people recommended you. And you know what? Christmas is this in a few days, and our next episode is the weekend of Christmas. So we are every week. I thought there was an extra week in there. I was trying to give you an extra week of a mom with 3 kids.
Yes, I need another week.
So I really appreciate you doing that this episode this week before Christmas. And this will come out Saturday, the 23rd will be when everybody can officially listen to it. So, and I will share in the show notes how everybody can find you, Miss Liz, and your intention work, what is it? My intent.
My intent. Our workshop is January 27th. So, yeah, Saturday at 11 in the morning.
I might have to come join you.
Yeah, I hope so.
Definitely promote it here on the podcast, and I'll have all your contact information. And don't forget, if you're listening and you live here and want to try out a class, that just go to New Trail. What is it? newtrailcycling.com/free class.
You got it.
I'll include that in the show notes. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Can't wait to hear what your word is. You'll have to come paint it.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. Oh, and I forgot to say, if anybody wants to connect on Why Not Today, we have the Why Not Today podcast. If you just go to the podcast, you can get on our email list. I'm going to start having some newsletter with some fun content. If you do want to sign up for the One Word event on January 4th, I'm thinking of some gifts I'm going to provide for everybody that signs up. So we're going to add some fun things to that. So don't forget, say why not today? You just never know. Thanks again, Liz.
You're welcome.